Tonight we're here to talk about women in technology. And there are many different careers in technology, but we're here because we have a problem. And that problem is lack of representation. We have women that are underrepresented in the technology field, and even more of a problem is we have women of color, black women in particular, who are vastly underrepresented in technology fields. And we know that that problem does not have to exist. And so as you're sitting here tonight and I introduce this panel and have a conversation with them, I want you to be listening for something. And I want you to remember this. It's hard to be what you can't see. And tonight we are showing you, and you get to see and hear from women who are in fields that I hope that you will listen and think, can I see myself doing that? That's what the question you're answering tonight. Not is Rung, was the chicken good? How was the wine? Was the parking okay? If you want to give us that feedback, we're happy to take that feedback. But the one question I want you all answering tonight is, listen for it. Can I see myself doing that? Because we need more representation with women in technology. So with that, we got some women who came to rep for us tonight, and I'll introduce them. To my immediate left is Julie Dobbs. Julie's a software engineer manager at Accenture Federal Services. She began her career as a consultant with Price Waterhouse, where she had the opportunity to train in IT development processes. And she has worked at several prominent St. Louis corporations before returning to her consulting roots and joining Accenture. Julie enjoys leading teams, developing software, analyzing, and re-engineering business processing. And like Julie, you enjoy doing that. Okay, I enjoy reading, sleeping, and you sound pretty smart. Thank you, Julie. Next to Julie, we have Katie Boudreaux. Katie, she said, don't get confused with the wine, though. Katie is a manager of cyber talent program, corporate security at MasterCard. So Katie is a program manager of cyber talent. In this role, she leads a program responsible for transforming the way MasterCard brings in and upskills cyber talent. Y'all need to know Katie. This includes supporting cybersecurity talent partnerships as well. We were going to be talking to MasterCard really soon. Heidi Meister is the next on our panel. She's the Senior Vice President of Business Strategy at Citi. Heidi currently works in the Core Operations Business Unit, supporting the Citi Personal Banking and Wealth Management Division. She has 13 years of experience in a variety of leadership roles with Citi. In her past roles, supported mortgage loan servicing, finance, capacity planning, collections, client communications, loss mitigation. Bottom line, Heidi is the boss with the hot sauce. And next we have, all of the women on our panel are special to us, but our next panelist is really special because Demisha White is a former Rung member and a 3D geospatial production technician at Maxar. Demisha was a member in the first cohort of Rung and completed the Women in Geospatial program in collaboration with Maryville University. She currently works as an imagery technician at Maxar, and she is passionate about growing and learning more. Maxar has nothing but great things to say about Demisha, so she's definitely the, if you can see it, you can be it. Next, and last but certainly not least, we have Tracy Van Gundy. Tracy is a cleared Agile Scrum Master, test engineer, and experience lead. That sounds like a lot. I'm tired just saying your title. While returning to school for geophysics degree in her 30s, Tracy fell in love with geographic information systems, or GIS. So I'll be using some of those terms so you all won't be like, what is she talking about? She has since applied that in multiple fields, including both copper and geothermal exploration and development, public health, and now software development. For the past 6 years, Tracy has been working on contracts supporting the modernization of geospatial systems as a test engineer, a user experience lead, a scrum master, and a product owner. Bottom line,
Not all at the
Tracy.
same time.
No, you can do all that?
Not all at the same time.
Not at the same time. Not at the same time. But bottom line is, wanted to give you just a little bit. They're going to be able to tell their stories much better than those intros were. I know you're like, Rhonda, shut up. We want to hear from them because Rhonda doesn't have a job in technology. I do strategy. So let's get started. I'll start off with Katie, Julie, and Heidi. Can you tell them rather, how'd you get into the field and what attracted you to the technology space? You want to start?
Yes.
Who has the mic?
I can start. I fell into it out of college with my first job. I interviewed for anything I could find a job with coming out of college. And I had the opportunity with Price Waterhouse, and I thought I was going to go in there and be a consultant, and I was going to go in never having really worked in the corporate world and tell corporations how to do things better. But so one, Price Waterhouse had an excellent training program, not unlike some of the training programs you can be involved in, and that is what set me up for my future. I knew that I could think well logically, and I had good analytical skills, so those were the things I knew, and they did do some testing back then. When I took that job, I did like a test to see if I was a good fit, and that really is what set me up in IT for the rest of my career. So I was an economics major and became an IT person, and I've been doing it for over 20 years.
Oh,
Thank you.
So while Julie had a career straight out of college in IT or tech, I did not. I actually have a background in industrial and manufacturing engineering. So straight out of college, I went and worked in the housing industry. And I worked as a manufacturing engineer. So I was crawling around under some dirty machinery. I was helping fix parts. I was involved in some cases helping with the mill process or the CNC process. So totally different background. I did that for 2 years, and then the housing industry bust. And the day I got back from my honeymoon, I lost my job. So that was pretty awful. But just a few weeks later, I was able to find a job as a facilities engineer. So that, still not tech. I was building larger than this room, coolers for FDA regulated drugs. I was doing the HVAC, I was doing the electrical, I was doing the construction, I was doing anything you can think of, the controls that was tied to these coolers. The company got bought out. I saw the writing on the wall and I said, no ma'am, I am not going to lose another job just because of something like that. So I started looking, and with a few gentle nudges from my husband, I found MasterCard and applied and said, there's no way I'm going to get this, right? Yeah. I'm not going to get anything. I have no software development experience. I have no project management experience. But really my skills as a facilities engineer, where I did actually manage the projects of building these coolers, perfectly led into a career as a project manager. I was a project manager for 2 or 3 years before a friend of mine was like, hey, I know we've been working on this project together. It was a little project called Apple Pay. And he was working on the information security side of things. And he said, I just took a new role. I think you'd be really great in this space. Next thing I know, I'm in cybersecurity. I've been working there for 6 years. And I've moved around within cybersecurity to the point where I was a project manager, I was a cloud security program manager, I was an information security engineer on our architecture team, and now I manage our cyber talent program. So I've been able to move around a lot, but mine was definitely more of a pretzel journey than a straight out of school.
I love a pretzel journey.
Excellent. So I would say that I entered the workforce in finance. So I got a degree in accounting, and in the 90s, accounting was often paired with information systems. I think they just thought we all could do numbers and computers. But I enjoyed my coursework that was around the systems, especially system development, and so I found that in my career I can always kind of nudge it the way that I'm most interested, and so that is really what I did, is try to take projects and throughout the different companies I worked at that were closer to the technology side, because that's where my interests lied. And I spent a lot of time in my early career building models models that weren't necessarily sophisticated because the companies I was working at didn't have the money for something we could buy off the shelf, but I could build it. I could build it in Excel. I could build it through talking to people and create information that allowed us to make better decisions. And so throughout my career then, moving into city, I kind of moved out of finance, out of what I would call technology, and more into a space where I was doing operations management. And, but even in that, managing a dialer, huge amounts of technology. We all know the phone call dialers that are calling hundreds of people at the same time. So working in that group, you just have to understand technology in order to be effective in those roles. And so that's really every step I've taken throughout my career, it's been towards technology. So managing dialers, managing statement production for a company like Citi is a huge technical undertaking to get all of the data mapped under the right situations for the right customer, 100% perfect all the time.
So there's so many nuggets of gold there. I don't know if y'all picked them out, but if you didn't, I'm going to pick them out for you when we get through. But I want Tracy and Demisha to talk to us because you both have had some non-traditional introductions into geospatial careers. Tracy, you entered the career later in life, I think. And Demisha, you came to it by way of Rung and got exposed to it there. Can you share sort of your origin story in terms of what made you even consider that transition?
I attended the first cohort at Rung, and I just needed a new direction. I didn't know what I was coming to Rung for exactly, but I knew I wanted a career change. Rung had lots of events. They had an event like this for me as well, where they brought geospatial workers in, and I was able to ask questions, learn more about their jobs, learn more about what they do. I knew that they had the Maryville and ArcGIS certification. They were talking about it, but it wasn't something set in stone, and I wasn't sure if that's something I wanted to do yet. But after Googling, finding more about the geospatial industry, being exposed to different things, I feel like this was the path that I should go down.
Great. Tracy?
So I used to work in restaurant management, and then I managed group homes for developmentally disabled adults, and then I got tired of not being able to pay my bills. So I went back to college. I had always loved science, never considered it as a career, but went back to college and was supported by a group similar to this, but it wasn't just focused on women. It was women, minorities, and non-traditional college students, first-generation college graduates, and so forth. And with their support, I completed a degree in geophysics. But along the way, I had 2 electives in GIS, and I fell in love with GIS. When I came out of college, I worked in mining engineering, copper mining and exploration, and geothermal exploration and development, and I did some 3D modeling in GIS and loved it. And then the mining field, all exploration is kind of a boom or bust industry. I got laid off 3 times in 6 years, twice by the same company, and then I was back to not being able to pay the bills again. So I moved back to Indiana and got a job in GIS in public health, which also didn't pay very much, but it gave me great experience because they were looking for somebody who could be a GIS server administrator, which I had never done before. And my boss, the person interviewing me, asked if I could do that, and I said, absolutely. I said, I've never done it before, but I had a history of going into jobs and not having a clue what was needed for that job, and learning it on the job, learning new software, developing new ways to use software that wasn't even designed for. And so I told him, I'm kind of like a pit bull. When I get an idea in my head, I am going to grab hold of it and I am not going to let go until I wrestle it to the ground. And he said that statement was why he hired me. So I became one half of the GIS department, learned to be a GIS server administrator. And then when my husband, he's my husband now, when I was moving out to the East Coast to be with him, I put my resume out online in a few places, and Leidos recruited me. They asked if I wanted to interview as a systems engineer. I said, sure. I had no idea what a systems engineer was. No. I'm still not sure. It's been 6 years. But I took the interviews, thought they were practice interviews, and then after the third one, they actually hired me. And so I started off just as a test engineer, got my feet wet, learned how to do the testing of the software, how to create a lot of the testing documentation and the user guides for software that we were building. I became a user experience lead, and then I kept getting promoted, and now I actually just herd nerds, and I don't do the work myself. But I'm working with my boss now to try to get back to doing the work myself, because I actually enjoy the hands-on stuff far more than I enjoy the management stuff. So that's
Wow.
my
All
story.
right, let me quickly, because was y'all picking up what they were putting down? Because listen, she said, I got notes. Look at her. She said, first of all, can anybody relate to working somewhere and like you ain't making enough money to pay your bills? Touch your neighbor and say, I can't. But here are a few things just to touch on, because I want to debunk some myths, because that's what this is about. First thing, and all these women touched on it, but some of them said it more explicitly than others. There's this myth that there's a perception around what technology is, and you have to be a certain kind of person. You have to already know all of this stuff. You do not. Transferable skills matter. Katie mentioned specifically that her husband said, go ahead and apply. Women are notorious for undervaluing ourselves when it comes to thinking we can do particular type of jobs. Men are overconfident. Men won't have any of the experience and say, I can do that. Right. Women will have all the experience and count themselves out. And also, to be able to go into something, as long as you have the transferable skills or baseline skills, oftentimes the right attitude that Tracy's just talking about is what employers are looking for. Somebody who wants to learn, is coachable, and has the foundational skills. So, Katie, I'm curious, what is cybersecurity and what are the different areas within this career?
So the textbook definition of cybersecurity is it's the practice of securing networks, people, and programs from digital attacks. Mm-hmm. But what the hell does that mean, right? At MasterCard, what we do is we do secure our networks. We secure our people, we do secure our programs, we do all of that, but there's so much to it. Everything from the platforms we use. So I mentioned the cloud, I was on the cloud team. We paired with the teams that built the cloud networks that MasterCard uses. My team in particular was set to what security do we need to put out there? How do we make sure that anything MasterCard, Matt, I didn't even drink any wine. What does MasterCard have to put into the cloud to keep us from getting attacked?
Right.
And on top of it, how do we monitor the cloud so that if there is a chance of attack, we know immediately what is out there? We have those processes in place for on-prem stuff, things that we have in our actual data centers, but how do we do it in the cloud? Then we have to put in place things to constantly test all of these networks, all of these platforms. So our vulnerability analysts and our penetration testers, they're the ones who go out there and they constantly test these things. They look for vulnerabilities, then they look how do you remediate the vulnerabilities. Some of it's not really as big of a deal, some of it's 0 day, and that has to be taken care of immediately. Otherwise we could go down and we could cause billions of transactions a day to go down. I mean, we as consumers don't want that to happen. So as a company, that's the very last thing we could ever allow to happen. We also have products that MasterCard uses. You know, people want to come in, they want to bring new products in. We have to go in and we have to do the reviews of those. So those are just a few of the small areas that we have. We also, part of our security team is physical security, but that includes cybersecurity because we actually have these really cool scanners when you go into the office that scan your fingertips. Oh. So you don't have to use a badge to badge in. Mm-hmm. So just lots of different areas that you can go into with cybersecurity. Everybody, you know, when they hear about it at first, they think of digital forensics or going into the security operations center or becoming a pen tester. Those are like the easy things that everybody can just do a quick Google search and that's cybersecurity. But when you dig deeper, building architecture, going out there and researching what's new, what's coming frontline that we need to look into, because at some point someone's going to ask us to bring it into MasterCard, and we need to be prepared with what we want to do with that.
Yeah, and you guys trying to stay 2 steps or 3 steps ahead of the hackers has to be just a job in itself.
Absolutely.
So now we heard a little bit about what cybersecurity is. Tracy, can you tell me, what is geospatial? Describe what is geospatial and what are a few of the opportunities in that space?
How many hours do I get to talk about this? So geospatial is, if you think about any data that can be associated with a place, that can be considered geospatial. You use it all the time. If you use a GPS, that's geospatial. Have you ever looked on Zillow or one of those, sites for finding houses, and you can filter, oh, I want a 2-bedroom house in this school district with 0 bathrooms or whatever.
So now anything with the mapping?
Anything with a map. It's used in resource exploration. It's used in the military, all of the FEMA, NOAA, all the maps that you look at that show weather data, all of that. It's all geospatial. And so where I work is in geointelligence. So think about all the things that we might need to keep our country safe that has to do with spatial data, right? So airplanes have to be aware of all of, the airports and any objects that stick up high so that they don't hit them. Mm-hmm. If you're in a ship or a submarine, you have to know all of the geospatial information underwater. For the military, they have to be able to pull maps in a second. There's human geointelligence, where there's intelligence about terrorist groups or people that they need to keep an eye on, and that's associated with places. So any data that can be associated with a location on a map can be used in geospatial. And multiple layers can be used in individual maps so that you can query on information and answer all sorts of questions that have an answer associated with a place on a map.
So pretty much these careers and the work they're doing, it affects our everyday lives. We just haven't been thinking about it in that way. How many times a day are you using your phone for directions, and you're swimming in it and didn't realize it? So Julie, what's it like to be a woman in IT, which male dominated, females are underrepresented, much more so in some areas than others, but just, I know some of the women, one of their hesitancy is, I don't want to be the first or the only woman in this office. So what's that been like for you?
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and I've definitely, when I started out of college, there was not a lot of women in IT. Mm-hmm. I luckily did work at a place, my first place, one of the major places I worked at was here in town, was A.G. Edwards, and there were some very strong women leadership in there, and even in IT, so I did have some mentors to look at, so that was helpful. However, there definitely was, as we always have said, the old boys network that still definitely existed for a long time. I do think it's better. I think you need to look at the places where you do work and look for that. Look to see if there's women leadership there. At this day and age, you should be able to find places like that, in my opinion. Yeah. But if you don't, and if you get in that situation, just stay true to yourself, trust your gut. Always ask questions. One of the things as I listen to people talk, I wish you guys had, I want to make sure you guys have the opportunity to come and talk to us, but I'm sure you have questions. I mean, there's so many things about IT that can seem so scary, and I remember that early in my career, it's like, it can be really easy to be hesitant to ask a question because you feel like it's going to be a dumb question, but don't. Always ask. What's worse is sitting there and not knowing. So always ask those questions, and I think that'll always help you. And if anybody makes laughs or chuckles, just let them. You're going to get the answer, and that's what's important. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. That would be one of my biggest things. And just continue to stand up for yourself and just do a good job, and don't worry about any of those the men that maybe not helping you. And find mentors for yourself. Look for people that you can look like, here, this is a great source.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that Rung specifically designed our program and the process that we work with women to address all of these issues that they're describing. And so this ability to ask questions and remain curious and not be intimidated is about fostering a growth mindset. We have a whole, that's part of our program we work with women on. So I know some of the women here might be curious. See, I'm asking the question that y'all want to know. So what's a day in the life like? So, people can see you, they hear you and they hear the terms, and it's like, okay, now I kind of get what cybersecurity is. But if you guys each would briefly share, like, when you go to work, is it remote? Are you dressed casual? You got on yoga pants? What you got, pocket protector on? What you doing? You say you in the cloud. What y'all doing? What y'all doing? Yeah, you in the cloud, baby. What does it look like so they can see, if they can see themselves in this role? So let's start with, Demisha, you want to start?
Please.
And you and Heidi will go.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I am a little nervous, but I'm trying to push through.
So we got you, Demisha.
Right now, I use
Proprietary?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Proprietary software to work in a 3D controlled environment. And that sounds like a lot, but basically, like every 2 weeks, I'm assigned a geocell. I look through my geocell looking for changes in the 3D algorithm or changes in the 3D mesh. I fix things like flooding. I fix things like tile gaps or just like little tears in the mesh.
And are you working on site or from home? Or?
I get to work hybrid, which is a very great thing. I work from home on Mondays and Fridays. I'm in office Tuesday through Thursday, and office is kind of casual. I'm pretty much in sweaters, slacks, or sweaters and jeans. Nothing too crazy. I'm at my computer most of the day, take a nice lunch, go right back. I have a job that I'm not bored of, which is very great. So I'm very happy about that.
Cool. Heidi, what about you?
Day in the life, no day is the same, I would say. My current work group, we spend a lot of time solving problems. And so the majority of any day is spent developing solutions, reporting on problems, really just trying to get people together to figure out what the next steps are, getting status updates. So it's a lot of meetings. But we also spend a lot of time, we at City, we're working in a hybrid environment most of the time. So that's 3 days at the office, 2 days remote. And we've spent a lot of time in City trying to make the on-site experience valuable because, to be honest, most of the employees don't really want to be back in the office. They'd rather just be home 5 days a week. And so we're trying to build community activities. We're trying to make sure that we're bringing people back to the office, not to just say, there's your seat, go to work, you're in the office now. But to say, we want you to be here so you can go to lunch with people, so you can talk to people, so you can talk to somebody at the microwave about whatever you're watching on TV. So yes, meetings, but also fun.
That's good to know. Yeah, because there's a perception when you're in tech, they think it's all like you're just with a computer all day, or there's no people interaction, and women are more social. We want to make sure that we can stand by the microwave or proverbial water cooler and talk about what happened on Netflix. So Kate, what's going on in the cloud at MasterCard? How did that look?
Oh boy. So when I was on the cloud team, my day-to-day was pretty hectic because it was a brand new platform we were looking at using. So every day was a different strategic architecture meeting. What direction are we going in? What are the issues with this direction? I mean, it was behind the doors. It was pretty chaotic. Several times I was one of 2 women at the table, so that was interesting for me. Not the first time I've experienced that in school. I can say I was one of 1 or 2 women in most of my classes. But typically it was strategic architecture meetings or design meetings, or when I moved into a security engineer role, it was working on tickets. So who wants to poke through the firewall and why? And I have to go going through products and working with the product teams to devise and design the most secure products that they possibly can by meeting our standards. Sometimes it's reviewing GDPR, which are the regulations over in Europe, and how do the products have to meet those regulations, or is it within regulations here with PII or PCI, which is the payment card industry. There are standards as well, so how do we meet all of those? So getting to design a lot, I was involved with a lot of that. Now I've taken a step back because I'm in the cyber talents space, so I don't dive into the hands-on security pieces, but I still have to stay aware of all of it. Mm-hmm. So I keep on top of it with meeting with my teams and just saying, what's going on? What are you working on now? Yeah. But lots of meetings, and I do dress like this most of the time. Sometimes I wear slacks, most of the time it's jeans, and always tennis shoes. There's no heels.
Look, I need to go there. Like, my feet been hurting all day. Okay.
So Accenture Federal Services right now is still, depending upon your project, most likely 100% remote. We are encouraging people to come into the office. We do things like Wow Wednesdays, where we have people come in for lunch, and we'll give them entice people to come in for lunch. We're new in the St. Louis area, our offices. We've only been here 2.5 years now, and although there's some people that have been around longer, but we didn't have a location ourselves. Accenture does. Accenture Federal Services did not. So a lot of us are home, and we're working with people that can be working all across the country in different locations. So typically the day starts out, so whenever I roll out of bed, put on my, works out. No, I usually go work out, and I usually go work out, and I come back in, and I just sit down, and I'm all sweaty and gross, and
hey, Julie's boss, she's working.
No, I log on my computer, and we start out the day with a meeting. Most of IT, you'll find a lot of IT jobs will start out with the morning meeting with the kind of project team. Mm-hmm. You all get a chance to get together. We usually try to talk a little chit chat to get to know people. That's one of the things that we do. We'll talk Netflix even virtually. We don't do cameras a lot, which is I wish we did more, but sometimes I'm glad we don't. But we often don't have cameras on, but we're all still talking. We get to know each other, and we'll do cameras when we're in one-on-one settings sometimes more, and we'll have specific meetings. We'll warn people, okay, cameras on today, so people will know. So we try to do some events to get to know each other. So those project meetings will be where a chance to anybody can bring up any issues they're having, and kind of plan for everybody's day. And we do those every day so that you get an idea of what progress people are making every day. And then throughout the day, you're doing your work, and then there'll be, many more meetings to discuss we'll know this problem is going to be discussed at this time. And depending upon your role, developers and testers might be getting together to work through things. There might be demos of applications that have been developed that we're going to show. There may be some client meetings where we're going to talk to them about issues that we want to get their answers on. So every day is a little bit different, except for that kind of morning start, but throughout the day. And we count on people to work on their own schedules, and we do some fun things, like we'll also do virtual lunches and things like that to get people together.
Definitely doesn't fulfill the stereotype of working isolated with, that's what oftentimes people think about technology. Tracy, what about geospatial in terms of your average work day, or what an average day looks like for you?
So for me, I turned it off. I was getting some feedback. So for me, very similar to what's already been said, we have a lot of meetings. I lead 2 teams, and so there's 3 teams on our task order. They're all related to Earth modeling, and we have a joint meeting every morning to kind of figure out what we're going to do, what the plan is for the day, what the blockers are. My job is to break down the blockers. The tone of our job is servant leadership. So whatever the team needs to be able to meet their goals is what we try to do. So if they need information, we get it. If something's blocking them, we knock on doors until we find a way to get past it. I also work hybrid. I work from home 3 to 4 days a week. I come up here to St. Louis 1 day a week. So I am a little dressed up. I don't have to be. I could wear anything anyone here is wearing, but I also have a farm, and I'm mostly usually covered in straw and chicken poop, so I like to dress up when I come to work, but I don't have to. And obviously, you know, they haven't fired me for having purple hair either, so so it's pretty laid back. But it is very very focused, very dialed in for my job all day long. There's multitasking. I'm in a meeting while checking emails, while taking messages, and trying to put out fires and find solutions to problems. And so it's just very intense focus for most of the day. And as leaders, we shield the team from a lot of that. So the team that's doing the hands-on work, we try to let them do their stuff. They let us know when they have blockers. We go out and fix them and come back and say, you know, here's a solution. So I liked the days better when I got to do the hands-on stuff. I actually really miss the hands-on tech stuff. It's fun to get through blockers and to help the team and to support the team, but I also really miss the hands-on stuff.
Tracy, listen, this is awesome. I'm picturing you now. You say you running a farm, so I'm picturing you chasing chickens, then getting on Zoom.
Literally between meetings, I'll go out and gather eggs. I sometimes run meetings with eggs in my pocket.
Only women can do this. Only women can do this. So one of the questions that I think comes up a lot, you all talked about transitioning to the field. I know some of you are much more advanced in your career than say Demisha, who's just starting, for instance. But somebody who wants to, what are the qualities, skill sets somebody has to just, as they're entering it, and what is that training experience like? So if you're remote and say you get hired on somewhere, how am I getting trained and everybody's remote? Who's training me? How is that working? So what does that look like? What kind of qualities and skills does a person need in the training coming into this as a new person transitioning into an IT career? And we'll start this way, so we just ended with Tracy. You want to start, you?
Okay, sure. I think AFS, I think we've got a great training program. We like to bring people straight out of some of the boot camps. We've got a table out there. We're happy to talk to you afterwards about that path. Mm-hmm. But we like to bring some people in out of the various boot camps in cybersecurity development, whatever that might be. And so that we know you've got kind of some core training there, and if not, we do have our own boot camps that we'll put people through too. We have some of those that we do ourselves. Mm-hmm. Are those, Christy, are they remote? I don't remember. They're remote, so they're working on those remote. Mm-hmm. So we just, people get used to it. We're training them, and you're sharing screens, and you have things that you're doing, so you can do it all.
It's just supported training environment, so they're not saying just go learn this and then
so you may be doing an exercise and coming back, and then you're reviewing it with the group and sharing your screens with someone who's training you, and they're looking at it and giving you feedback. So great programs. And then we have our new joiner program. We have weekly and monthly meetings with new joiners to see where they are, so they can all get together and ask questions. And then once you get when you get on your first assignment, we know what career level people are, so we make sure that the assignments are geared to that career level. We give them partners and buddies that they can help with them and really partner up. In the programming world, there's a lot of buddy programming type of thing you can do to help people to get up to speed. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things you can do, even remote.
Awesome. Okay, you got 2 mics coming your way.
All right, sorry. So MasterCard's still hybrid. I didn't speak about that either. I go in the office 1 to 2 days a week, but each program's a little bit different. What do I look for? Aptitude and attitude. I am not looking for somebody who knows the necessarily, let me take a step back. I'm not necessarily looking for somebody who knows the difference between authorization and authentication, right?
Because we don't know the difference.
Right, exactly. You may not even know what MFA is, multi-factor authentication, or the fact that when you use your thumb and your face to get into your phone, that's some version of MFA. I'm not expecting entry-level people who join our teams to have that depth of knowledge. I am expecting people to have some knowledge. What is cybersecurity? What areas are they interested in cybersecurity? Maybe it's data privacy, maybe it's risk and governance that they're interested in. But really what I'm looking for is people with a curiosity and people with a passion. So maybe somebody who takes their home network and they start playing with it and securing it a lot better than just putting some random password on their Wi-Fi, right? Maybe they put layers out there. I have a mesh network and I mess around with it all the time, and I'm telling you my teenagers hate it, but I don't care. I go around, I expect to see something like that. Have you created an AWS account or a Google account out on the cloud, and are you playing around to see what do they offer and how can I learn more? Or are you reading books about cybersecurity? There's a great one that I was listening to on my way here about zero-day vulnerabilities. Or are you tied into certain people on Twitter or receiving newsletters or something like that from certain people who just staying up to speed on what the newest vulnerability threats are, what is the newest frontline cybersecurity stuff that people are talking about. I want to know that you have a passion for it, because you could go to school for 4 years for cybersecurity and show me zero passion. You are not getting your foot in the door. I'm sorry, that's just, you have to show that you actually care about what you're going to be doing. So the aptitude, being able to pick it up, the attitude, showing that you have passion. Those are huge to me.
Cool. Heidi?
Well, so training at City is definitely very varied by the role. So it's not, okay, for the next 6 weeks you're going to be in this training class, and because we typically don't have the volume of people unless you're selecting a job that isn't in technology. In my work group, we have 250 systems that we're using on a regular basis. They're not all utilizing the same type of technology supporting infrastructure. So we don't need someone to come in that knows all of our systems. That I don't even think there's probably a person that would. We do need to have people that have some basic knowledge of how data is organized, how to make decisions, and I think more importantly, have good soft skills, know how to work in a work group. We're not working in an environment where you're just going to be in a corner doing your thing and you don't have to talk to people. You have to be able to work with the people around you, and so we do a lot of our training. The training I developed for our team is a lot of introductions. So it's making sure you know who the people are, so when you have questions, you know who to ask those questions of, and you feel comfortable. Because if you don't know, and like you're just kind of alone, especially in a hybrid environment where you're not necessarily there all the time together with your work group.
So Demisha, I know you came to Rung, and I think you were doing delivery or something like that, and you got it. So what was the geospatial training, like transitioning from that?
When I first started at Maxar, I did work in the office for the first, I guess, about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Training was 2 weeks for me, which was very beneficial, being able to ask questions, figure out how to do different things, take notes. And then even after you have your 2 weeks of training, you're set up with a mentor. So I had a mentor for a month, so even if I had trouble with something, I was able to reach out to somebody to walk me through it or let me know what I need to do or how to fix the problem. So training is very great, I believe, in my job. Never feel like I didn't know something. If I didn't know something, it was going to be easy for me to get an answer.
And it was probably great here at Rung too.
It was
That's what she meant. It was great there and here.
Almost everything I have learned in technology, I have learned on the job. I had 2 GIS classes. They didn't do me much good in my jobs. Everything else I learned with other software. I just volunteered to learn stuff. I have been very fortunate that I've worked for companies that have offered training or have offered me the time to teach myself if I worked for a small company. Leidos is great. They have tons of online trainings that we can utilize on our own time that's free. So there's like AWS cloud training, there's tons. So it's been very, very helpful.
Okay. So I want you all, once again, can't be what you can't see. You've now seen, but it's just a taste. But we got about 3 minutes left, 30 seconds each. I want you all to talk to these women in this room. If you had to tell the women in this room who came here considering a career in technology, whether it's in your particular area or not, but just 30 seconds or less, if you had to give them a piece of advice about entering into a career in technology, what would you say?
Go for it. Say go for it. If you can think analytically, if you're a problem solver, if you find yourself looking at things and seeing situations and thinking a way to do it better and quicker, go for it.
Thanks. Katie, what'd you tell them?
Stay curious and don't stand in your own way. That's one thing that I repeatedly have done in my own career, and it has held me back. And once I realized that I was my own worst enemy, I removed that barrier, and just amazing things keep happening.
I felt that.
My advice is to say yes. When you are given an opportunity to participate on a special project, to be on a site-related committee working on the potluck for who knows what, say yes. You meet people, you get new skills, and you're able to develop your career. And the yes obviously could be that special project that is, technology related in your job.
I like to just say, continue your journey. I didn't think that I would be where I am right now. I started Rung about 2 years ago, and right now I would say life is excellent. Just keep going, don't stop your journey. Things will change for you.
Network.
There you go.
And also make sure you get a good resume, get a good cover letter that's tailored to whatever job you're applying for, and get your resume out there. Put it on Indeed, put it on LinkedIn. I would never have applied for my current job because it was a cleared job, and having a security clearance was not anything I thought was ever going to happen to me. They recruited me. I thought it was a practice interview. I thought the second interview was a practice interview. By the third interview, I looked up what a systems engineer does, and I mapped skills that I've had from previous jobs. I think everybody's mentioned this. All the previous jobs and experience. You may think that you don't have the skills for a tech position, but a lot of your skills from previous jobs, motherhood, you name it, a lot of those skills will map to careers in tech.
Let's give these ladies a